Thanks for your call, Bill. In a moment, Monique Ryan, who's the current sitting independent MP in the seat of Kooyong in a ding-dong battle with the Liberals. But you tell me, do you feel safe going to the shops? The Liberal Party are spending heavily. Monique Ryan appears it is spending heavily as well. It's a contested seat, the seat of Kooyong, places like Camberwell, but it's had a redistribution, a significant one. Dr. Monique Ryan, good morning.
Good morning, Raf.
Are you afraid to go to the shops?
No, I love going to the shops in Kooyong. There's a number of fantastic shopping strips and I go there regularly. I feel no fear.
Does crime come up when you go? Does crime come up when you door knock?
Yes, it does. And it's a real issue at the moment. Crime and community safety are a real issue in Kooyong. And the major issue is one of car theft and aggravated burglaries. People are feeling unsafe in their homes at times, and that's something I've been really actively engaged with the Burrendale and Donington councils about in recent months. But this whole thing about not being safe to the shops, it echoes Peter Dutton's language from years ago about not being safe to go to restaurants. It's unhelpful and it's a beat up.
After 9 o'clock, Monique Ryan, we're going to have a number of housing experts. It's clearly one of the number one issues in this campaign, and I think it's also unusual to have Labor and Liberal talking so much about housing policy. If I can just ask you about the two major policies out there. Firstly, Labor's promise is that every first-time buyer will only need a 5% deposit and not a 20% deposit. Is that a good idea?
Well, it's not the worst idea because we know that it's very rare for people to default on their mortgages, and it will help some people get into the housing market. The problem is that it will increase house prices, as will the Liberals' policies, and that's not going to be helpful for first-time buyers. The major issue is supply, and that's something that neither of the major parties are really addressing effectively, but we also need tax reform, and that's something, again, that neither of the major parties has had the courage to bring to this federal election.
Might get to supply, but if I can just ask you about the Liberal idea. So it is essentially, this is my word description of it, negative gearing for first-time home buyers. Is that a good idea?
It's not, because it basically will advantage people who are high-income earners over people who are low-income earners. It will be inflationary. It will increase house prices. And it won't address the underlying problem, which is supply again. So it's a regressive policy, which will also decrease our tax base. So it's really hard to see anything positive about the Liberals' housing policy.
How does an independent MP, let's say you win, doesn't matter if there's a majority or minority government, how on earth does someone who's an independent MP do something to increase the number of houses in Australia, to do something on supply? How would you do that?
Well, I actually think that the major problem, Raf, here is tax reform, which is the thing that significant evidence-based tax reform to improve the affordability of houses in this country, which is something that neither of the major parties will address with at all. In terms of the supply, I think Labor's done some things which have been good, but they're too small. The Housing Australia Future Fund, $10 billion, but we're only going to be building social and affordable housing off the interest off that. We need to really commit to building more social and affordable housing. In Kooyong, there's a development at Vic Roads, the old Vic Road site, that the state government is selling off to developers, where it should be developing it for social and affordable housing. That's what the community wants, but the state government won't commit to that. We can build more housing. We just have to commit to the investment that's required for it and stop offloading the responsibility for that to developers and to the state governments.
Okay, you mentioned tax reform as a way of helping with supply. Are you talking there about either capping or scrapping things like negative gearing?
We have to look at all parts of the tax system, and we have to give people some certainty about their economic futures and enable them to plan for the future. That has to include giving young people some certainty that they will be able to afford a home in their own lifetimes, ideally without being dependent on intergenerational wealth transfer. So the capital gains tax has to be part of it. Negative gearing has to be part of it. Land tax, every part of the tax system needs to be reviewed so that we can adjust the settings so as to effectively address intergenerational inequity.
Okay, looking at capital gains and negative gearing isn't the same as reducing them. Am I wrong in thinking you want to reduce people's access to negative gearing and capital gains if they're investing in housing? Is that what you think is a significant part of tax reform?
I want the next federal government to address critically all aspects of our tax system to
Don't
see
you have
whether
to
or not
commit
it's
to
fit
an
for
idea?
purpose for the next generation. Well, they have to commit to a review of the tax system along the lines of the Henry Review and to action on housing. If they don't, they're going to lose the young people of Australia.
Monique Ryan's the sitting independent MP for the seat of Kooyong. I'm sure she'll be handing out how to vote because early voting starts today. Monique Ryan, I'll get to issues in your seat in a moment, but AUKUS, Zoe Daniel, one of the other independent MPs, wants to review that agreement to buy British and American subs before we make our own. Do you want to review it?
Yes, I do. I've actually spoken to this in the last few weeks as well. It's pretty clear. I'm hearing from people every day in the seat of Kooyong that they're concerned about the AUKUS agreement. They're concerned about the cost. They're concerned about whether or not anything will ever be delivered to us, and if so, when.
So why don't you just propose scrapping it? If you don't like it, why not? What purpose does a review serve? Shouldn't you just say you're against it?
We haven't had enough transparency about exactly what will be delivered under AUKUS and when. We don't have any certainty about those deliverables. People want to understand that our defence capacity in the short, medium and long term is shored up and that we can be confident in it. They lack that confidence and that's what they're looking for. They feel that AUKUS has been decided upon by the major parties and that the major parties are not willing to review it or to explain to people exactly what we're going to get and when and what the options are for us if those things are not delivered by the US.
That sounds a lot like wanting to scrap it, not review it.
No, I don't want to scrap it at all. People are really concerned about national security and with good reason at a time of significant geopolitical global uncertainty. But we need to know what's the backup plan. It makes no sense that we don't have one, and it's incredibly frustrating to people in seats like Kooyong that neither of the major parties is willing to address that.
Your opponent, Amelia Hamer, it's come out during the campaign that she owns some houses. She's also a member of a trust fund. I just wanted to get your response to something the Liberal Party said about that. Jane Hume, the Liberal senator, joined us last week, and I asked her about Amelia Hamer's benefiting from a trust fund. This is what Jane Hume said.
What extraordinary class wealth warfare you're waging there. Amelia Hamer didn't make herself a beneficiary of a trust fund. I think it was a great-grandparent of some sort.
Monique Ryan, is it class warfare to talk about or mention her access to a trust fund?
The issue with Ms Hamer is not the fact that she has a property portfolio or that she's the beneficiary of a family trust. The issue with Ms Hamer is that she made herself out to be something which she is not, which is that she presented herself to the electorate as a renter who was struggling to cover the price of her rent and struggling with the challenge of home ownership. And that it's become clear that that's not the case, and that's the frustration that people are expressing to me about her.
Is it legitimate to bring up what the property she owns?
Well, she said that she was a renter, and she said repeatedly that, she was concerned about housing affordability as a renter who was struggling with rental increases. I think given what's come to light regarding her personal circumstances, people feel that she was being disingenuous.
How many properties do you own?
My husband and I own one home, which has still got a pretty significant mortgage.
So no other property?
Nothing else in Kooyong that makes us outliers, actually. It's not about...
Sorry, have you got a lot of wealthy voters in your electorate? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think a few people have said to me, surely by now you should have a few investment properties. But, it's not about people's circumstances. And people have a right to accrue wealth and do the best for themselves and for their families. That's what we all want to do. But people want their elected representatives to be honest about their personal circumstances.
Just a final question. There's a video of a neurosurgeon ripping down one of your placards, one of your core flutes. Do you see that as gendered violence because of the comments that were made? Is that something that falls into gendered violence or not?
Yes, the video was. I found it really distressing, actually, Raf. There's been I've had literally hundreds of core flutes ripped down and destroyed and stolen during this campaign, and that's unfortunately part and parcel of campaigns in this country. But the thing I found very distressing about that video is the language that the surgeon used. I don't know him. I don't know what his beef is, but the fact that he was talking about things like burying the bodies, I found that personally distressing, and I think that a lot of women did too.
What's going on in your seat? I mean, your husband's been tied up in this. There's fights about billboards. There were fights about billboards last time. Why do we always end up talking about core flutes and billboards in Kooyong?
I don't think it's just Kooyong. Actually, I'm hearing the same thing from all around Australia. It's a bit of an issue. I think the Overton window's been shifted a bit, and people are a bit more openly hostile and aggressive around political situations now, which is unfortunate. We could talk about why that might be. It is unfortunate because I've actually been at pre-poll this morning. It's all in a very good spirit. Everyone's happy to be there, happy to be part of the democratic process, and I hope it's going to be like that for the next 2 weeks.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Raf.
Dr. Monique Ryan's the independent MP for Kooyong. Her main challenger in that seat is the Liberal Amelia Hamer. Belinda is in Hawthorn, just calling about housing. What do you want to say, Belinda?
Oh, yes. Hi, Raf. I am in my 70s, as is my husband, and I feel those of us in our 70s have had really good luck, possibly not earned good luck. We've had the benefit of free university education. We have had the opportunity to own our own homes. I think that tax reform is one of the major things that's needed so that we can, give back to future generations. The negative gearing and the franking credits is I think, is one of the major problems for ruining the housing supply.
Well, neither of those things are being proposed at the election by a major party. But in the next hour, I'm going to get a few people to run their ruler over some of those ideas from the major parties. Whatever they're offering, is it going to make it easier for you to get into a home? I'll try to get you an answer to that question after the 9 o'clock news. Just on feeling safe to go to the shops on the text, Ross. You're in Flemington, Ross.